I really have found more similarities than I have differences. When I was at the embassies that I was fortunate enough to be ambassador at, we had a list of values between myself and my number two, the way we wanted to manage our embassies. And we talked a lot about teamwork and good communication and putting people first and having fun. And I found that if you take that same approach with teams in the private sector, you also get really positive results, good response from people. The majority of people, I've decided, just want to do their jobs well. And if you can create the environment where it's easy for them to do that, they'll deliver. You know, every once in a while you feel as if you're the right person in the right place at the right moment. And I felt that way when I was living in Brazil in 2002 during the election that Lula eventually won after, and that was his fourth try, right? And I say that because there was a lot of doubt about the PT coming to power, a lot of doubt in Washington, in Congress in particular. Because I had lived in Brazil before and I had worked with people from the PT and I had some perspective on how they had developed, I think I was able to assure Washington that this government would not be a problem or threat for the United States. As we become more and more a global company, there's an understanding within Boeing that cultural intelligence is important, right? The idea that you need to be able to work with people in a variety of cultural settings. And when the president of Boeing International called and asked if I would be interested in opening the office here in Brazil, he said basically, we can teach you Boeing. It takes a lot longer to learn how to operate effectively in Latin America. I think that was a demonstration of that recognition of cultural intelligence being very important in today's 21st century world, right? Yeah, you know, it's not, and there have been studies about this, articles written, it's not the glass ceiling where a woman has this excellent career all the way to one point and then suddenly can't make it into upper management. You have to look at those opportunities where women are taken off course along their careers. And that means being sensitive to the fact that women bring other qualities to the table. That means that, a flexible working environment to accommodate those qualities is important for the company. We've also seen the studies that say that companies with more women in executive ranks, more women on the boards, consistently do better in terms of sales, in terms of return on investment. So women are bringing that to your company. Are you willing to be flexible enough to take what they're offering? And there are women now more and more, as you say, in important positions, and women have to help other women. Madeleine Albright said famously once, right, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. I think it's really important. When I came in the Foreign Service, there were no women role models in the Foreign Service. Our generation was really just making the mark for women in the Foreign Service. So I think that being a good role model, I'm not going to say being a good mentor, but I think mentors come in all kinds of forms, right? But being a good role model for other women and, being willing to say, maybe I had to pay a higher price that I'm not going to make anybody else pay. I think that the idea of work and life balance is totally erroneous. I think it makes us think incorrectly about the role work has in our lives. I like to think of the pie chart, right? Work is one of those slices in your pie. It's not a competing force with life. So I think if you have the choice of how to cut your pie and how to name your slices. You can have a relationships piece and a family piece and a work piece and a community piece, but you're making choices, and choices have consequences. And I feel very strongly that every woman needs to have that work piece in her life throughout her life, right? Because we used to say in the early days of modern feminism that every woman was one man away from poverty, right? If he left, her financial security left with him. You can't put yourself in this position. You have to find a place to have a job, a career, some way of depending on yourself. And can you have it all? Absolutely, you can have it all. You can be in a stable, loving relationship with healthy, high-achieving children and have a satisfying job. But what you can't do is have it all 100% perfect 100% of the time, because that's called life. Well, I would say take risks. I push yourselves, right? I mean, Sheryl Sandberg would call it lean in, right? Be willing to put yourself out there. I was very lucky in my career. I was, I think, tactically smart, but not strategically smart. I never had that strategy. I would encourage young women to think strategically about their lives and about their careers and where they fit in that pie.